"I will not leave my country. I intend to die here," said Manuelito. But he finally agreed to talk again with some of the chiefs who were at the Bosque Redondo. Should be the conclusion now of Chapter 2 of Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown, 1970. In late February, Herrero Grande and 5 other Navajo leaders from the Bosque arranged to meet Manuelito near the Zuni trading post. The weather was cold and the land was covered with deep snow. After embracing his old friends, Manuelito led them back into the hills where his people were hidden. Only about 100 men, women, and children were left of Manuelito's band. They had a few horses and a few sheep. "Here is all I have in the world," Manuelito said. "See what a trifling amount. You see how poor they are. My children are eating palmilla roots." After a pause, he added that his horses were in no condition for travel to the Bosque. Herrero replied that he had no authority to extend the time set for him to surrender, and he warned Manuelito in a friendly way that he would be risking the lives of his people if he did not come in and surrender. Manuelito wavered. He said he would surrender for the sake of the women and children. Then he added that he would need 3 months to get his livestock in order. Finally, he declared flatly that he could not leave his country. "My God and my mother live in the West, and I will not leave them. It is a tradition of my people that we must never cross the 3 rivers, the Grande, the San Juan, the Colorado. Nor could I leave the Chusca Mountains. I was born here, I shall remain. I have nothing to lose but my life, and that they can come and take whenever they please. But I will not move. I have never done any wrong to the Americans or the Mexicans. I have never robbed. If I am killed, innocent blood will be shed." Herrero said to him, I have done all I could for your benefit, have given you the best advice. I now leave you as if your grave were already made." In Santa Fe, a few days later, Herrero Grande informed General Carleton of Manuelito's defiant stand. Carleton's response was a harsh order to the commander at Fort Wingate. "I understand if Manuelito could be captured, his band would doubtless come in, and that if you could make certain arrangements with the Indians at the Zuni village, where he frequently comes on a visit and to trade, they would cooperate with you in his capture. Try hard to get Manuelito. Have him securely ironed and carefully guarded. It will be a mercy to others whom he controls to capture or kill him at once. I prefer he should be captured. If he attempts to escape, he will be shot down." But Manuelito was too clever to fall into Carleton's trap at Zuni, and he managed to avoid capture through the spring and summer of 1865. Late in the summer, Barboncito and several of his warriors escaped from Bosque Redondo. They were said to be in the Apache country of Sierra del Escudero. So many Navajos were slipping away from the reservation that Carleton posted permanent guards for 40 miles around Fort Sumner. In August, the general ordered the post commander to kill every Navajo found off the reservation without a pass. When the Bosque's grain crops failed again in the autumn of 1865, the army issued the Navajos meal, flour, and bacon, which had been condemned as unfit for soldiers to eat. Deaths began to rise again, and so did the number of attempted escapes. Although General Carleton was being openly criticized now by New Mexicans for conditions at Bosque Redondo, he continued to hunt down Navajos. At last, on September 1st, 1866, the chief he wanted most, Manuelito, limped into Fort Wingate with 23 beaten warriors and surrendered. They were all in rags, their bodies emaciated. They still wore leather bands on their wrists for protection from the slaps of bowstrings, but they had no war bows, no arrows. One of Manuelito's arms hung useless at his side from a wound. A short time later, Barboncito came in with 21 followers and surrendered for the second time. Now there were no more war chiefs. Ironically, only 18 days after Manuelito surrendered, General Carleton was removed from command of the Army's Department of New Mexico. The Civil War, which had brought Star Chief Carleton to power, had been over for more than a year, and the New Mexicans had had enough of him and his pompous ways. When Manuelito arrived at the Bosque, a new superintendent was there, A.B. Norton. The superintendent examined the soil on the reservation and pronounced it unfit for cultivation of grain because of the presence of alkali. Quote, "The water is black and brackish, scarcely bearable to the taste, and said by the Indians to be unhealthy because 1/4 of their population have been swept off by disease." The reservation, Norton added, had cost the government millions of dollars. "The sooner it is abandoned and the Indians removed, the better. I have heard it suggested that there was speculation at the bottom of it. Do you expect an Indian to be satisfied and contented, deprived of the common comforts of life without which a white man would not be contented anywhere? Would any sensible man select a spot for a reservation for 8,000 Indians where the water is scarcely bearable, where the soil is poor and cold, and where the mesquite roots 12 miles distant are the only wood for the Indians to use? If they remain on this reservation, they must always be held there by force and not from choice. Oh, let them go back, or take them to where they can have good, cool water to drink, wood plenty to keep them from freezing to death, and where the soil will produce something for them to eat." For 2 years, a steady stream of investigators and officials from Washington paraded through the reservation. Some were genuinely compassionate. Some were mainly concerned with reducing expenditures. "We were there for a few years," Manuelito remembered. "Many of our people died from the climate. People from Washington held a council with us. He explained how the whites punished those who disobeyed the law. We promised to obey the laws if we were permitted to get back to our own country. We promised to keep the treaty. We promised 4 times to do so. We all said yes to the treaty, and he gave us good advice. He was General Sherman. When the Navajo leaders first saw the great warrior Sherman, they were fearful of him because his face was the same as Star Chief Carleton's, fierce and hairy, with a cruel mouth, but his eyes were different, the eyes of a man who had suffered and knew the pain of it in others. We told him we would try to remember what he said," Manuelito recalled. "He said, 'I want all you people to look at me.' He stood up for us to see him. He said if we would do right, we could look people in the face. Then he said, 'My children, I will send you back to your homes.' Before they could leave, the chiefs had to sign the new treaty, June 1st, 1868, which began, 'From this day forward, all war between the parties to this agreement shall forever cease.' Barboncito signed first, then Armijo, Delgadito, Manuelito, Herrero Grande, and 7 others. The nights and days were long before it came time for us to go to our homes," Manuelito said. "The day before we were to start, we went a little way towards home because we were so anxious to start. We came back and the Americans gave us a little stock and we thanked them for that. We told the drivers to whip the mules. We were in such a hurry. When we saw the top of the mountain from Albuquerque, we wondered if it was our mountain. And we felt like talking to the ground. We loved it so. And some of the old men and women cried with joy when they reached their homes. And so the Navajos came home. When the new reservation lines were surveyed, much of their best pasture land was taken away for the white settlers. Life would not be easy. They would have to struggle to endure. Bad as it was, the Navajos would come to know that they were the least unfortunate of all the Western Indians. For the others, the ordeal had hardly begun. It's the end of Chapter 2, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown.